Why nobody likes woke characters. I think this will be interesting. Go woke, go broke. I think that in introducing things into a story because they fit with a worldview is a bad idea. But I think that people also, like, for example, things are woke. Let me give you some examples of what makes something woke. Are there black people in it? Yes? Okay, then it's woke. Is there a woman on the screen? Really? Is she wearing clothes? She is? Oh, okay, well then it's woke then. Okay, let's see. What else is there? Is it critical of Western ideals at all? Yes? Okay, well then it's woke. All right, solved. So we'll see what happens here. I have a, I think I have a, I don't have like a very, I think that this is, it's much more circumstantial than I think a lot of people make it out to be. If the identity of the characters is put over the plot, it's woke. Well, I think in general, people don't like to have their stories co-opted by a person who wants to use what they want to hear as a tool to promote their worldview. Anyway, I'll talk about it probably as the video goes through. Yeah, the Matrix got me.
What's up, everyone? It's Endymion, and since Star Wars celebrates...
I am so glad he said that because I had no fucking idea how to pronounce that goddamn word. Here we go.
There has been a disturbance in the balance of pop culture, where millions of fans groaned in unison as Disney and Lucasfilm announced that Rey would be brought back in a new movie. Some may have been hyped, while many others saw this announcement as Disney unwilling to learn from their past failures, as Hollywood keeps pushing what fans reject, and it begs the question, why does no...
I think it's because people don't like the character. Like, for example, nobody complained about Wonder Woman. Like, there's plenty of character, of strong female... Nobody complained about Ridley in Alien. I don't think it's because she's a woman.
Nobody seemed to like these identity politically driven or woke characters. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
What rubs many the wrong way about Rey isn't that she's a woman, although I'm sure there are those out there who hate her simply for that, but I'm not one of them. The real reason why I particularly dislike the character and this announcement of her making a new Jedi Order is that Rey is essentially assuming the role that Luke should have had instead. Unfortunately,
I thought Luke Skywalker in the extended universe of Star Wars, I thought he did make the new Jedi Order after he beat like Darth Vader and Palpatine. Yeah, he did. Okay. So this is really what the problem is. It's that you're changing what people think's going to happen. They decanonized it. Well, I mean, you don't just flip a switch and everybody forgets about it, you know?
Disney made Luke into a bumbling hobo who drinks alien milk and tries...
I was so unhappy about this. Dude, I thought Luke Skywalker coming back... Because, like, you think about it, like, think about all of the real, like, I mean, Palpatine, bro, this dude's like 100 years old. And he's he's like evolved beyond even, he is the Force. And then you have Count Dooku. You have fucking, like, Palpatine's, what's the Plagueis. You had him. Like, think about all of these, like, super old, massively powerful Jedis and Sith. Like, and then fucking, like, we didn't see Luke Skywalker just completely pop the fuck off? Like, why? Everything was set up for that to happen. That would have been so cool.
To kill his nephew, and to really put the nail in the coffin, they also killed off Luke as well. All the expanded universe lore surrounding Luke could now, in retrospect, not be used since the legacy of the character was finished. But the sad truth is that Lucasfilm and Disney found a way to remove Luke from the story and replace his legacy with a younger character instead. When it comes to a lot of...
See, it should have been Kylo Ren because he's cooler. Like, I thought Kylo Ren was awesome.
New age media, there's been quite a few characters created that could be considered self-inserts of their creators. A good example of this is Mariko Tamaki, who's the author of the YA graphic novel I Am Not Starfire,
I can see that.
where the beautiful supermodel Starfire has a fat daughter that looks more like the Penguin than being related to Starfire herself. Her daughter, whose name is Mandy, also looks strikingly similar to her creator, which many, as you would expect, have pointed out. Then, of course, you have Velma and Mindy Kaling.
And I don't have a problem with that, by the way. I don't at all. I don't know who Starfire is, but if this is a new series, if this is her story, then I'm totally okay with it. And it's like, if there are people out there that there's an audience for it, good for them. Yeah, good for them. That's, I mean, listen. Like, shorter, uglier, like, fatter girls, like, guess what? They deserve a comic book, right? Shit, why not? I think that's fair.
Which I don't need to explain.
No,
of course, self-inserts are nothing new when it comes to media, as it's likely impossible for a creator to not in some way insert parts of themselves into the very characters they create. A good example of this would be Peter Parker, as Spider-Man looks a lot like one of his creators, Steve Ditko. But the difference between someone like Peter and Mandy is that Peter actually became something that stood the test of time and grew and expanded and
well, it's that it was good. That's what the real fucking problem is that we can talk about self-inserts and all of these fucking intellectualizations of it, but at the end of the day, the reason why nobody likes these other characters is because they're shit characters. That's the main reason.
Their own legacy. Where likely until I mentioned Mandy in this video, you probably haven't even thought of or knew that character even existed. To swing back to Star Wars again, Rey feels like a self-insert, but in the worst way possible. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Rey was a self-insert of Star Wars' biggest villain herself, Kathleen Kennedy. A woman who's so hated by the fan base that even during Star Wars Celebration, many didn't clap or woo her as she went on stage.
Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy!
Because the damage
I don't know. I mean, fuck. What am I? I don't know. Okay.
She has done to the brand and Disney at large at this point is stained by her diluted touch. Rey is a terrible self-insert character because she doesn't add nothing to the story she's in. She is simply Luke Skywalker but a woman, but without any of the problems or weaknesses. Instead, she's capable of doing anything and everything herself, even breaking out of prison in Force Awakens on her own, even though she's only known how to use the Force for maybe 5 minutes at this point. Rey—
yeah, I think that there's a lot of issues like that happen in stories. I actually don't think that this has anything to do with her being a woman or woke. I think that it just has to do with bad storytelling. Like, that's really what it is. They've got a short movie. They're trying to cut out as many things as possible. And so they're just like, okay, let's just fast forward this. Everybody knows she's going to use the lightsaber. Let's just skip this part. Yeah, it's bad storytelling.
Rey is the ultimate bad character because of this, and I honestly feel bad for Daisy Ridley because she's just doing what she's told by the writers, directors, and producers who employ her. There was something there in Awakens, a glimmer that she could have been a great character, but this potential was sadly wasted. And then it was exemplified when she was not only assuming the role that was originally Luke's, she also took his last name too. Rey and her self-insert—
That seems weird. That, I don't know. I think that's so weird. Like, what do you mean? I thought she was a Palpatine. Like yeah, is it like that's so, yeah, it's just, and again, I think that's a better story. Like, I hate how in these movies you have to have such absolute moral, like you have these obvious moral gray areas, and it's just like they're totally fucking ignored. This is why I really appreciated Game of Thrones. Up until like the last 3 episodes, Jaime Lannister was like my favorite fucking character by a mile. He was so good. And do you know why he was so good? It's because he was so bad. And that's why he was so good. It was amazing. But you just can never have stories like that because it's either the character becomes, and I think also the bad part about it to me is the fact that everybody can see that there's so much more potential for a deep, complex character, but it's made it's made one-dimensional on purpose in order to like create this like weird like moral perspective, or in order to just make the story simpler. Like, for example, like you can have Dio in fucking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or Sauron. And yes, oh, well, Sauron actually wants order, and you see, he was, like, Melkor, like, he wasn't really evil, he just wanted to be able to create life on his own, he couldn't do it. Yeah. Sauron's basically fucking evil. In the story, he's fucking evil, he's bad, he's the Dark Lord, you've got to kill the Dark Lord. It's like Voldemort, right? And even with Voldemort, right, it's not even his fault. He was like fucking born because of a love potion, and because of that he couldn't love anybody or have emotions. It's just, I know a lot of fucking stuff about stuff, all right? And so there's a lot of examples of this. The point is that everybody loves Dio. And I think people also love Voldemort. Because they are simple. They are so fucking simple. And there's not a lot of room for complexities there. But the problem is that there are a lot of complexities with characters like Rey. And you just go like this. Whoop. Problem solved. No complexities anymore. That's what it is. Yeah, it's underdeveloped bad storytelling. Voldemort's developed so well over the years. Yeah, he's great.
Creator Kathleen Kennedy are the worst thing to happen to Star Wars since its creation. Many could argue that the reason why fans are so against Rey is because she's a new character and nobody wants new stuff. They just want what they liked before. But this is clearly not true, since we have had plenty of characters made in the years before and since that disprove this.
Isn't it Ahsoka, I'm pretty sure? Is that the one? No, I think she had different skin in the cartoon. I don't know. It's not. I haven't watched a lot of this new stuff. Ahsoka's blue. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Killer, for example, was a character people really liked, and The Force Unleashed, when it came out, became the best-selling Star Wars game ever at the time, even outpacing KOTOR. Grogu is another great addition, and so is Din Djarin, but people clearly don't like when they're sold something as one thing, but get subverted into experiencing something that they don't want. The Mandalorian recently has largely replaced Din and Grogu with Bo-Katan, and even the producers of the show say anyone can now be the Mandalorian.
We've been on, the journey of the show, and now that we're at this point, is that, what does that title mean? And I think now with Bo possessing the Darksaber, I know that there was a lot of expectations that might have shifted, both in terms of what it meant for Din Djarin, but also for Bo.
I don't watch this shit, so they make the Mandalorian a girl or something? Is that what happened? Yeah? Can I please give you guys some advice? Trick question. I'm not asking. Here's my advice. If a show changes in a way that you don't like, stop watching the show. If your video game changes in a way that you don't like, stop playing the video game. And you don't stop playing it because you don't love it. You stop playing it because you do. Because nothing else is going to work or make any changes at all. It's not going to make any effect. So keep that in mind.
What does it mean? Who is the Mandalorian right at this point? And so I think it could be anyone. And,
stop buying shit that you don't like.
In many ways, is what does that mean to be Mandalorian?
We want our Space Dad and Goblin Son story, and even though the show was marketed as such, once you watch it, the duo are sidelined for other characters. It's not even that Bo is a bad character, it's just...
This would not be a problem if the other characters were good. Again, I can use Game of Thrones. Season 1 was all about the Starks. Season 4 wasn't. I like Season 4 more than Season 1.
that no one is watching the show for her when we've been invested in Din and Grogu.
Yeah, I'm not
If I can put this into an analogy for you, switching out Bo for the duo is like going to a steakhouse and having the advertisements promoted as a place for barbecued beef. But when you enter, the menu actually has no steak on it, and instead everything is replaced with fish.
I went to a place like this. Oh my god. Oh my god. Every time I think about it, it makes me mad. Oh my god. Everybody else was there. I couldn't go anywhere else. I had to eat it. Oh, it was so bad.
And then you're being called an idiot or an anti-fish eater because you went to the steakhouse expecting steak.
Yeah.
But now everyone who works there hates you because you don't want what they're selling, and that's how all of this feels.
Well, who cares?
We wanted steak and potatoes, but you're feeding us halibut and soy milk. The fan base has every right to be disappointed about this kind of stuff. It's not to say that you can't have good characters that are people of color or women, as one of my favorite characters of the past decade and then some is Agent 355.
Oh, I thought it was Mace Windu. Like, that guy... Bro, he squared up against Palpatine. The fucking greatest lightsaber fighter in I'm pretty sure, in all of history. I mean, come on. It's not even a question.
Why the Last Man? She's an incredibly badass special agent whose sole purpose is to protect the last remaining man on Earth. Her determination and willingness to see her mission through is not only filled with comedy, but a horrible tragedy as well. 355 is an amazing character who's also black and a woman, and she's also believable and fits perfectly.
I noticed this with Log Horizon, is that in the later series, in the later part of the show, I noticed that, like, a lot of the episodes were just about women. And I thought it was great. I thought the show was great. It was a great show. I loved it. And I never, like, I recognize this. I'm like, hey, you know, because I think to myself, what would people think about this, right? I'm, like, thinking about it on, like, a fucking critical level or a meta level. But, yeah, it made no difference at all. So I don't think that people categorically don't like women protagonists. I think that there are some people that are like that, however.
Into the world of Why the Last Man. Another character I really love is from a comic called Punk Rock Jesus, where a company revives Jesus through strands of DNA and makes a reality show out of the second coming of Christ for television ratings.
That's clever.
This
I like
second
that.
Jesus is protected by a capable and deeply troubled man named Thomas McKeel. Thomas is...
Well, I thought the deeply troubled man was God. Apparently they changed the story. Okay.
a badass bodyguard whose nickname is the Cemetery because of all the crosses on his back he has tattooed signifying all the people he's killed. Punk Rock Jesus is also just a damn fine limited series, and I strongly recommend it if you haven't read it. But the point stands that good original characters do still exist out there in the wider world, but unfortunately, when it comes to mainstream companies like Marvel for example, they can't help but keep pushing these terrible woke ideas instead. A good example of this is Deadpool, who in a recent issue has begun dating Valentine Vuong, an assassin who was originally an enemy of Wade's. While this all may seem fine, the more I dug in, the more obvious and self-inserting it became. You see, it would be one thing to announce that Deadpool has a new girlfriend, except whenever you read an article about this, the selling point is that this new character is non-binary. And I had a creeping suspicion.
To be fair to the writers of this, this is what they're selling. Like I'm not gonna completely shit on this. I'm actually not. Because it's like, Deadpool does all kinds of crazy, weird shit. Could I see Deadpool doing this in the movies? Yes, probably. The problem is that it wouldn't seem natural unless Deadpool made a bunch of jokes about her being non-binary. And if that happened, then it would be politically incorrect, so they probably wouldn't make the movie. So there's a good chance that this probably won't go into the movie. So, like, yeah. Anyway, I think this is not a big deal. However, you know that whenever any of these, like, if there's an identity issue, every single fucking person on the internet is going to write an article about it, make a video about it, or talk about it on Twitter because it gets the most interactions. So it's not like they're selling her as this. This is an artist. Sorry, this is probably some sort of a fucking, what do you call it? This is probably like a critical review.
So, of course, I dived in deeper, and the writer of this Deadpool series is Alyssa Wong, who, of course, is also non-binary. Meaning this series is just a fanfic where the writer has self-inserted a non-binary Vietnamese character who is very specifically just like their creator, and wrote it so that they can bang Deadpool. It's Tumblr.
Yeah, usually this kind of stuff stays on DeviantArt. I mean, again, if it was a good character, nobody would give a shit. Again, I actually don't think the problem is, like, you can have whatever identity you want, but if the character sucks and the story is bad, then nobody's going to want to see it. But I do think that at a certain point, I will give credit to this because I think that it is true to an extent, especially with something that's as overt as this. There is a certain level of willing suspension of disbelief that you have to, you again, whenever you read something that's fantasy, whenever you read fiction, you suspend your disbelief and you put yourself in an alternate world. And whenever you see characters in that world that you know are only there because of real world reasonings, that world doesn't feel real to you. It doesn't feel as real to you. And that's why I think people lose interest in shows that have all of these different types of, you know, quote, woke things. It's because every single time they see these characters on the screen, they know that the reason they're seeing that is because of some worldview that the people that are writing it are trying to push. That's what it is. It's because every single time you see them, it reminds them of that.
Levels of cringe, but this is how things are now. Thankfully, there has been good characters that are also diverse, but unfortunately, I do wish there were more that were given proper respect and real characterization. Aya and Bayek from Assassin's Creed are some of my favorite characters in that franchise, and they are both not only diverse, but extremely integral to their franchise, and fans love them.
What about Sergeant Johnson over in Halo? Oh man, he was the best.
Another miss by the modern comics industry was Jonathan Kent, who became the new Superman. Except his only defining characteristic wasn't his heroism, legacy, or villains, but simply that he was bisexual. And having the new Superman be bi did little in the long run, with the series being cancelled because, like many of these woke characters, their identities are surface level at best.
Yeah,
and I know
that's the problem. Like, again, look at Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones. Like, whenever you explain Oberyn Martell, you can talk about the dude for 10 minutes before you even bring up the fact that he also likes to fuck other dudes. It's really just a footnote. And, like, yeah, it's a plot point with Sir Loras, and, like, yeah, but, like, that's really not the main thing. It's a character that exists because of their identity. It's a change that happens just because of some, you know, personal reasoning. That's it. That's why it's fucking awesome and not pandering. Yeah, clearly. And I remember there were people, I never read the fucking the Game of Thrones books, but there were a lot of people who were unhappy with Sir Loras Tyrell, his portrayal in the movies or the show, because they felt like he was too much relegated to his sexuality. As somebody who didn't read them, I don't know, but I've heard that complaint before.
Some people will say that it's odd that I'm against gay Superman or self-insert non-binary Deadpool love interest.
I think that it's very fair to say that you don't like self-inserts. I think that's fair no matter what the self-insert is. It's cringe. Again, it's immersion breaking. You know, people said the same thing happened with like that one character in WoW. I forgot even his fucking name. The guy that liked Sylvanas was like her boyfriend, who apparently, like, whatever happened to him, I don't know. Yeah, Nathanos Blightcore. Yes, Nathanos Blightcore. There you go. And sure, like,
but I'm totally fine with Peter Parker looking like Steve Ditko. Why Peter Parker works where so many of these woke failures don't is because when it comes to characters like Spider-Man, he's so much more than just his sexuality or skin color. Peter is a young man whose life gets changed by the spider bite. He loses his uncle because of his own hubris. And while he has the riz of a literal god, Peter also suffers immensely, but never lets it bring him down and inspires those around him. When I think of someone like Peter, I think of his characteristics as heroic, selfless, loving, and strong. He's a character many people can see themselves in regardless of gender, skin color, or whatever else. It's the same with Agent 355. I think of her as adaptive, strong-willed, and incredibly badass. Her being black or a woman doesn't matter because at her core, she's a strong character. But when I look at Jonathan Kent, the only quality he has is that he's bisexual. That's all any of these New Age characters are now. They are simply created for diversity checkpoints so websites will write articles about them. But the reality is that these...
Yeah, I don't know why people keep doing this. It's like, it's so lazy and boring. I feel like it's almost like a, it's like people might try to push something like this, hoping that the leadership at the company will think that it's important enough to greenlight the idea, even though it's bad. Like, whenever I think about things like this, I always default down to, like, what is the simplest explanation that is the most beneficial for the people that are doing it. Maybe it's because it's easier to greenlight projects like this, and because of that, people that are not good writers use it as a crutch to get their things that would not otherwise be greenlit to be greenlit. I feel like logically that makes sense. I don't know if it's true, but it makes sense.
Controversies usually never translate to true long-standing sales, and it proves that consumers want their characters to be defined more besides what's in their pants or whose pants they want in.
Well, it's also that people have, like, there's an established character. And, like, yeah, you can change, oh, it's a new Superman now. But you can't just say it's the new Superman and the new Superman's totally different from the old Superman. Like, these characteristics, like gender, race, sexuality, these are a really big deal with a lot of people. And so if you make a character who is a one-dimensional character and that's what it is, I think that, yeah, it's going to be different for a lot of people. It is. And I don't think it's like a politically correct thing to say, but obviously gender matters a lot. Obviously your race matters a lot. Of course, with how you identify with people. It's obvious. So you can't just pretend like these things don't exist and then live as if they're not.
Speaking of Spider-Man, one of the newer characters added to the mythos is the alternate universe version of Miles Morales' sister. Her name is Bobby Morales and her superhero name is Spider Smasher. And she looks like a cheap knockoff of an Attack on Titan character with the overused half-shaved hair.
I'm so tired of that. Oh my god. I'm so tired of that. We've seen so many of these, man. Like, goddamn.
Haircut.
It's like, at what point is this not just fucking a new type of stereotyping?
And there's Spider-Boy, whose real name is Bailey, and apparently has the exact same origin story as the Sentry, who's Marvel's version of Superman, basically. They're not even trying anymore. However, if you want an example of a character that became a breakout success and is fairly recent, we can look at Dr. Aphra, who first appeared in the Darth Vader comic book series. Aphra is a morally ambiguous character that kills and manipulates people and is also a woman of color and meets all of the characters.
There's also another big factor with this is that whenever the character is hot, people are more okay with it. It's that simple. Yep. It's like what I said. You want players to like Sylvanas again? Give her bigger boobs. And you know what they did? They made her hotter. Like, go back and look at the BFA cinematic Sylvanas and look at the Into Shadowlands Sylvanas. She's way hotter. It's not even a question. And you know what? People are like, it's not that bad.
That kills and manipulates people and is also a woman of color and meets all of those sexual identity nonsense things every company is so crazy about. But while Aphra does tick certain ideological boxes, she managed to have her own comic book series and became a character that shined even when put beside icons like Darth Vader. So it's not that people don't like new characters or those of color and so on. They just want well-written characters that are complex. I understand that writers want to diversify their characters, but it becomes increasingly agenda-driven and eye-rolling when almost every prominent character is gay. Look, I understand that gay people need representation, but we went from a little bit of representation to the point where characters are being retconned into having their sexuality changed for pandering reasons.
I think there's no reason to retcon somebody's sexuality. I think that's what... And this is not really something that is for sexuality. It's true for basically anything. And there are some exceptions if it makes the character better. Like I've used the example, we talked about this before, Nick Fury. In the comics, Nick Fury is fucking a white guy. He's a white guy, I think, with blonde hair. Well, in the movies, he's a bald guy named Samuel L. Jackson. And it's fucking great. Because he's not being played by a black guy. He's being played by Samuel L. Jackson. It's not even a question. Like I've said this before too. I grew up with Black Green Lantern. I didn't know there were multiple Green Lanterns. So whenever I saw that Ryan Reynolds was playing Green Lantern, I was like, what? This isn't what, like, I didn't, like, no, that's not how it's supposed to go at all. Yeah, I was confused. And so, yeah, the movie was horrible. It was not a great movie. I watched it with my dad. I remember it very clearly. So, yeah, problems in sexuality, skin color. Some writers nowadays changing the story. Yeah, again, it's changing the story and changing existing characters. That's what I think people don't like. If you want to make a character that has a different sexuality, that's a woman or something like that, who gives a fuck? Like, it doesn't matter. But don't take existing characters and then change them because you can't invent your own.
Else would DC Comics suddenly say one of their Robins is gay, or John Kent? It's not being done in order to flesh the character out. It's simply written that way so places like CBR will write an article. And Twitter people will virtually pat the creators on the back while not spending a dime supporting these ideas. Only to complain that people hate gay characters until they make more gay characters and then they don't support those either, and the cycle of lunacy continues. Honestly, one of the best additions to Star Wars in years was Gina Carano's Cara Dune, who was supposed to get her own spin-off show.
Didn't they get rid of her because of, like, Twitter shit? I remember this happened like 3 years ago.
But the absurdity that Disney would cancel an actual strong female role model over politics is so very much the perfect encapsulation of our current world. You can't just have a character be gay. They have to also align exactly how you want them when it comes to your politics and views as well. Having a strong female character isn't enough if that woman doesn't bend the knee or parrots all the talking points too. It's because of this very clear bias that many fans are disillusioned and tired of many things. Yeah,
I think the solution to this is stop consuming content that you feel doesn't respect you. I don't know why this is such a hard thing for people to do, but that's the solution. Stop consuming content that, like, that you feel like it's patronizing, it's fucking, like, it's woke or whatever. Then stop watching it. Because I guarantee you, if you stopped, remember that Ghostbusters movie in 2016 where they were all women? Well, guess what? That one didn't do too well on the box office, did it? No, it fucking didn't. And you know what? we didn't get another one of those movies. Think about that. Because that's what happens. It's the ultimate sense of the customer is always right.
Out of having the things we love being ruined or paraded for woke points is why I do what I do. There needs to be a middle ground where we can have representation, but it shouldn't come at the cost of deplatforming others. If fans are so against characters of color, then why was everyone stoked when Ahmed Best played a Jedi Master in Mando? Why did no one complain or have an issue when Kang was announced to be played by Jonathan Majors?
That's such a good one, too. Like, I really, like, I'm excited for this. Personally, I don't think I think that the idea of Kang, the Council of Kangs, the fucking variants of Kang, I don't think this is going to work. I don't. However, every scene this guy is in, it's good. It's the same as like a Thor, Love and Thunder. What was the best part of that movie? Gore. Gore was great. I loved it. I mean, and again, why? Oh, I don't know why. Maybe because he was played by Christian Bale. No fucking shit.
Or why did Creed 3 make over $250 million on a franchise that primarily started with a straight white man as its lead?
Very good. This is, I never even thought of this example. This is a great fucking example.
Character. The difference is that when it comes to characters like Creed, the
story was so fucking good, man. Like, I think about the one, oh, fuck, what was the one? I forgot, where he fights the son of Dolph Lundgren. Oh my god. That was so good. Was it 2? I think it was 2. Holy shit, that was good. Like, it was so fucking good. And, like, what part of that story is about the guy being black? No, none of it. It was just a great story.
Replace Rocky, but instead respects and
doesn't this guy love anime too?
Creed, in a lot of ways, is the opposite of Rey. He forged his own place in that franchise and built a story that honors what came before without ruining the original movies. Rey is now in the unfortunate, unique position to appropriate and transform all of Luke's expanded history and make it her own. That doesn't make Rey a good character. It makes her an imposter that didn't earn what she has. Ultimately, the reason why people don't like woke characters is because they don't offer anything actually unique. They are simply checklists so modern creators can fail upwards into ruining more stuff they should have no part in. This is why The Acolyte so far has people on edge when one of their lead actors says things like Star Wars is very patriarchal.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, no shit. It's about dudes with swords and shit. And by the way, isn't Abeloth, who's like the most powerful Force user in all of Star Wars, isn't that a woman? Yeah, so... Yeah, so... Yeah, and by the way, also a monster? Yes, also a monster. But the point is that, yeah, they don't know that. No, they don't know that. It's obvious that, like, most people in this are going to be guys. Like, because guess who goes to... Do I really have to say this? Guess who goes to a bunch of fucking movies of dudes fighting other dudes with swords? Other dudes. That's how it works. It's just that fucking simple. Now, you have other exceptions, right? You have, like, Underworld, right? But that's another reason why dudes would want to watch that movie too.
Which makes you question if the actress in question, whose name is Jodie Turner-Smith, even knows what she's talking about. She goes on to say, quote, "My character, you know, she's a powerful leader. She's a powerful leader in a very woman-centered world, which I was very excited to kind of be in that because I feel like Star Wars is very patriarchal. So it was kind of cool to have this sort of woman-centered figure," end quote. Also, it's really hard for me to say patriarchal. Patriarch, I can't say it. Moving on. Either Jodie Turner-Smith is blind or hasn't seen any of Star Wars in the last year. Since movies like Rogue One starred a woman, and there's...
Yeah, Rogue... And also, by the way, I feel like everybody thought, like, I remember I watched Rogue One with my mom. And we were like... And my mom was super fucking red-pilled based, like reading, like, watching Alex Jones in the 90s, okay? But and I remember, because I asked her, because I remember Black Panther came out. She watched it. And I'm like, so? And she's like, it was good. And I watched it. It was good. It was really good. And Rogue One was also really good. Yeah, I was actually surprised at how good what was it? Black Panther was. I didn't like it. I feel like I liked Killmonger so much that it made me like the entire movie.
An entire sequel trilogy where everyone kisses the toes of the...
Again, by the way, another character that, you know, being black is like, that's part of his story and that's part of his motivation for sure. But really, is that why you like him? No, it's because he's a fucking badass.
Female characters.
He's such a great villain.
If
he's
anything,
amazing.
Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but, oh god, patriarchal. Patriarchal, I can't say it.
Yeah.
If anything, Star Wars from a movie or TV sense in the last 10 years is anything but patriarchal. I think a more fitting word would be cucked, but what do I know? I only actually watch these things and make videos on the internet about them. It does seem that the nonsense of today's world will not end anytime soon, but I have a creeping suspicion that the inevitable Episode 10 of Star Wars will not do as well as Disney hopes. And these lazy self-inserts like Mandy, non-binary Deadpool love interest, or half-shaved haircut Spider-Person will have as much impact as the greats they so desperately cling on to. Because in the end...
I don't know what the fixation nowadays is with, like, what's the word for it? Like these like really, really sharp personality female characters with half of their hair shaved. How many of these are there? God damn.
Ideology and color of someone is just that. It's skin deep. No one race or group is inherently evil or lesser simply due to the pigment of their skin, and each person should be judged based on their own character instead. But when your character's defining traits are their body fat index being high or what they're attracted to, it's no wonder these ideas are dead on arrival. So reject the modern nonsense of today and embrace real, actual well-written media. Go read Punk Rock Jesus or The Legend of Luther Strode. Play games with fun characters like in Resident Evil 4 and enjoy movies where the people involved actually care about the legacy they're building on. And the reason why nobody likes woke characters is because they are not written as people first, but as checklists for idiots who only see people for their skin color or sexual identity. And in the words of Master Yoda himself,
"That is why you fail."
There it is. Yep, there it is. It's ironically one of the reasons why I thought that the emotes, like the Anel and, what was it? Like fucking Ming Lee and shit like that. That's why I didn't like those emotes. It's because they're just like emotionless, like pictures of a person of a certain ethnicity, and they're just used, oh wow, Asian, we put this emote. It's just, fucking, I don't know. I think it's kind of boring. That's what it is. I think that, again, nobody complains about woke characters if they're good. People complain about woke characters whenever the character's bad. Nobody gave a shit about woke characters in Game of Thrones. Nobody gave a shit about woke characters in the original Avengers, pretty much, as far as I know. Why? Because they were fucking good. And that's what matters. Make good characters, and if the basis of a character is their sexuality, it better be very compelling. That's what it is. What the fuck does that mean? Let me explain. So basically, what a lot of people don't like is that they don't like how a character is added or an existing character is changed in a way that is not representative of what people view them to be. That's what it is. Does that make sense? Yeah, Game of Thrones did diversity right. They sure did. They absolutely did. That's not really woke, though. Yeah, what I'm saying is that there's definitely there's a spectrum of these kinds of things. Yeah, when it doesn't feel natural, it feels forced, it's breaking immersion. Yeah. If it breaks immersion, then it's bad, because then people can't get into the show. Arcane proves diversity isn't good or bad. We just want quality characters. Yeah, of course. Hawkeye's a good character. You find out he's straight because he has a family. Why don't they do gay characters in the same way with a lot of time? I mean, I'm going to be honest. Hawkeye was great with, like, Avengers, because every time he was on the screen, I knew it was okay for me to go get some food, because nothing important was going to happen. Same with Black Widow. Like, what the fuck? Like, what do they ever do? But yeah, sure. I mean, I guess maybe he's all right. Hawkeye got the worst power. Yeah. Black Panther 2 dives into more women in the MCU. Is done in such a good way. Maybe so. I heard some people thought Black Panther 2 was bad. I haven't seen it yet. I'm not sure. J.K. Rowling made interesting characters and changed the sexuality later. Yeah. Sometimes there are gay characters, they just introduce the gay person's partner and don't make a big deal about the character being gay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of cases where that's the case. And I think also the problem is that the character might not have a strong or an interesting enough personality outside of that. So whenever you think of that character, that's the only thing you think of. Black Panther was so forced, dude. The entire intention was, let's have a black superhero movie. That's what people are too scared to say. Well, I mean, yeah, it was a black superhero movie, but I watched it and I thought it was good. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a black superhero movie, right? Because, like, Wakanda is pretty much in Africa and there's a lot of black people there. So, like, that's pretty much what it was, yeah. But it was a good movie, and so I liked it. I mean, I'm not gonna watch it because it's a black superhero. I'm not gonna not watch it because it's a black superhero. Like, if it's good, all right, yeah, we'll see what this is. If not, then who gives a fuck? I don't know what to say. And that's what I was saying. That's my point, right? Is that everything, all of the conversation around the movie was like about how, you know, like all these like fucking social issues around it. Like, bro, was the movie good? I watched it. It was good. Well, I liked it at least. I mean, you might not like it. It's fine, but I liked it. Yeah, Blade. Yeah, exactly. I like Black Panther since I was a kid. The movie was good. I didn't care for the second one because I didn't care about Vecdana. I don't know. Black people in Africa. There's more woke shit, brother.